Let your curiosity rise.
Madbrick's webcast,
Where the human spirit flies. Madbrick's webcast. Where the human spirit flies.
I'm going to come down there. Then I haven't operated for a while. Okay. Welcome to the Med Big Webcast. This is Raman Annamaraju. I'm the host. Today is I'm in running around Silicon Valley between the towns. Silicon Valley is like a 15-mile radius. Okay, so if you just across the street, a different city, Sunnyvale, San Jose, Santa Clara, they're all together in this area. So I'm in Fremont right now. But let me introduce my colleague. She's been there a long time, so she's a friend of mine. Her name is Jennifer Niemeyer. She was instrumental in helping me so many ways all these years. And let me bring her to the table. Jennifer, welcome, Jennifer. Welcome to the webcast.
How are you?
Good.
So I'm so excited to be here. I'm excited for your show today with Dr. Block. It sounds absolutely so interesting. I can't wait.
How is the weather in Dallas? How is the Dallas weather?
Very nice today. It's been cold, but today we're in the 80s, so pretty nice. Yeah.
So I'm some phones coming in. I cannot do. So 1 second, if you don't mind. I'm in the podcast. What? Okay. What do you? Yeah. Anyway, sorry about that. You take this one, man. Yeah.
Sorry. I did have a question, Ramana. I was looking at some of the concerns in healthcare, and I've noticed myself because I've been to some physicians' offices around here in Dallas, Fort Worth for family members. And I've noticed that there's a lot of notices saying that physicians are retiring, they're closing their practices. And so I did a little research, and then along with that, it showed that there's this huge gap between urban and rural healthcare. And so I don't know if you have touched on that. And I know that Dr. Block does some consulting, coaching and leadership training, for physicians. And I wonder what the real reason is that I seem to be seeing a lot more now than ever before of physicians retiring and closing their practices.
Yeah, rural healthcare is a big challenge. Let me introduce you, Dr. Jonathan Block. He has a very interesting background. Tonight on MedBreaks, we explore what it truly means to understand healthcare, not just as a clinician, but as a system, a business, a leadership structure, and a mission of service. Our guest, Dr. Jonathan Block, brings more than 35 years of experience across every layer of healthcare, from starting as an EMT, think about that, in Boston, to serving as a medical technologist, to become a board-certified urologist and obesity medicine doctor. Oh my God. And his journey spans frontline care to executive leadership. A former major in the United Air Force Reserve, Dr. Block has also served as a department chair, vice president of medical staff, and a medical staff president, holding a seat on the board of governors of a community-based teaching institutions where strategy meets a financial reality. With the advanced degree in healthcare administration, public health, legal studies, he's a doctor, kind of a lawyer, I think, and emergency management studies, along with decades of consulting in pharma, biotech, and venture analysis and medical device innovation. He bridges clinical excellence with the business acumen today. As the Vice President and Director of the Medical Affairs at Yarbo and founder of Peerhead Lighthouse, he continues shaping leaders in healthcare. Dr. Block represents something rare, someone we have seen healthcare from the ambulance to the boardrooms. That is a, we need to bring him back, bring him to the table. Oh God, what a, I tell you, another famous man in the, welcome, Dr. Block.
Thank you. Thank you very much. You make me sound more important than I really am.
Yeah, I have another important person who is started as a EMT person in Boston, not in New Orleans. He became a very powerful guy. Athena Health CEO, Jonathan Bush. He started as an EMT.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, Jonathan Bush is he wrote a book called where does it hurt. That's he wrote a book, and that he's from Boston actually. So tell me, your background is mesmerizing for all of us. Tell us a little bit about what I went through, Jenny. I can't even read the reams of experience you have. So if you can tell us a little bit about your background.
Sure. So I've kind of had this very meandering journey. I started off, knowing I was going to go into medicine. When I was in college, I wanted to get my feet wet. So I became an EMT. I took a class in college. It was my first semester. I learned how to be an EMT basic, and I started running rig outside of Boston. And I got a lot of great experience. I had some scary experiences. And then after graduating from college, I got into medical school, and I started working also as a phlebotomist at a local community hospital on Long Island. And because I had graduated with my bachelor's, back then there were two ways of becoming a medical technologist. You could either graduate from an accredited program, or you could do what was called the clinical training pathway. And I was kind of already doing some of the work in the lab, wasn't supposed to, but I was doing it anyway. And so they trained me, and I would work hematology, I would work chemistry, toxicology, micro. My favorite shift was the midnight shift. I loved it because nobody bothered me. I could come in, I would run hematology all by myself. I'd go back into micro, I'd plate, I'd read, I would run toxicology, chemistry. It was a skeleton crew. It was wonderful. I loved working there. I learned a lot doing laboratory medicine. And it was interesting because I was working under a pathologist, Dr. Rabinowitz. And one day I was in the lab, and he had to come in and do an autopsy. And he grabbed me. He's like, Jonathan, come with me. I'm doing an autopsy. You want to come see it? I'm like, absolutely. I got to see this. So we're standing there at the table. He's doing the autopsy, and I'm listening to him. And I said, because of you and my experience, I'm thinking of going into laboratory medicine. He literally put down an organ, stopped what he was doing, looked at me, says, no. He goes, you're a clinician. I can already tell. And it kind of made my mind that pathology was out for me. When I went to med school, I honestly never thought I would be a urologist. Never thought. My father passed when I was 8 years old from severe diabetes complications. So I'd always imagined I'd be an endocrinologist, I'd go into family practice. So I did my surgery rotation, first rotation of third year, just to get it out of the way. I absolutely fell in love with surgery. So all these experiences have begun to teach me that sometimes life is more about what gets thrown at you and how you handle it than what you choose for yourself. And a lot of the hardest decisions in life are really the ones that are made for you and not by you. And I've learned that throughout. So, I realized once getting out and finishing residency and getting into practice, what really got me honed on all these degrees and certifications was I realized I was a philosophy major in college. That was my first major, a dual major. Philosophy was my number one. And actually in the philosophy of religion, that's what I wrote my thesis to graduate in. And I always remember, Plato and Socrates. And the first thing that's, they always said was, the one thing I know is I don't know anything. And you always have to approach life with, you don't know as much as sometimes you think you do. And I realized when I was in practice with my partner in private practice, I didn't really know how to run a business. They don't teach that in medical school. They don't teach it in college. They don't teach it in high school. They teach you nothing about these things. They want you to be a doctor, but they don't really teach you how to run a practice. So I began taking management courses. Then I decided I'm going to get my MBA. So I got my MBA in healthcare administration. And then I became a department chair. And that was also because life throws things at you that, the decisions aren't necessarily yours. I realized we weren't having routine meetings in our community in a small city. And I said, we really should be having department meetings among the hospitals. And they said, well, my partner said, and a few others said, well, if you want to do it, set it up. So I did, set it up a dinner. And sitting around the dinner table, I was the youngest guy at the dinner table. I was, at the time I was thinking, I was 32 years old. Everybody's much, much older than I am, gray hair urologist. And I said, okay, we should form a department. They said, that's a great idea. You should do that. And I go, what do you mean? I go, we need a chair. That's a great idea. You should do that. So I got basically elected to be the chair of the department. I was the chair of our department for many years. I sat on the medical executive committee, worked my way through the ranks, and I became the vice president and eventually the president of the medical staff, where I finished a few years ago. And I realized I had a lot of experience. And during that time, I found more gaps in my education and knowledge. A business degree only goes so far, but in medicine, especially in the higher levels, you're dealing with a lot of administrative issues, bylaws, compliance, regulatory environment. There are a lot of letters shooting back and forth between legal and compliance and inside, outside, JACO's coming in, DMV's coming in, CMS is asking for certain things. There's a huge regulatory burden. And physicians, again, we're not trained to that. So I decided to go back and get my master's in law. I essentially took every class a lawyer takes except criminal evidence and procedure. So I got grounded in that. Then I realized I had a gap in understanding some of the public health aspects. So I went back and got my master's in public health. So I slowly piecemeal myself together as time goes on. And I got board certified in obesity medicine because I had an interest in that. And I figured, that'd be a great exit plan. And honestly, I want to answer the question is why more physicians are retiring. I want to get to that because that's part of the exit plan. But throughout life, we find gaps in our knowledge. We find gaps in our experience. And it's our role, it's our job to fill those, either internally or finding and seeking the right people on the outside to build the best team possible. That's always been the philosophy that I slowly built over many years.
Yeah.
Dr. Block, one of the major things, I'm just going to talk straight into the Silicon Valley's mode. Okay, that is the AI, artificial intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
I think some people are saying that we don't need to be expertise. You don't need a doctor. AI can do that. They're already expertise. What do you think in the future for the doctors holding these? Silicon Valley says that we can replace the doctors because we don't need them for the expertise. But there is some problem. I presented a lot of limits of AI. I've been a 3 series. I did that. 4th series I will be doing soon. 4th one, the 4 series part. One of the series I told them is that the black box problem is still is not solved. The second one is irreversibility of the biological systems. But what is, in your point of view, what do you think AI cannot replace the doctor?
I write a lot of this on my LinkedIn page.
I see that, yeah.
I do a lot of work. I'm a huge advocate of AI. I use AI not just every day, not just every hour, probably every 10 to 15 minutes I use AI. I have AI bots that help me run my consulting, answering phone calls, checking emails for me. I use AI for running queries on medical issues and checks. I basically run chat, Gemini. I have other AI bots that are running in the background. And what I've learned is that AI is a great tool like any other. It's like a hammer or a screwdriver or a wrench. The problem is that You can't use a hammer on every problem. You can't use a hammer on a screw. So AI has an incredible ability when we're talking about large language models. Now, what overcomes the LLM is what they're getting into now are the LRMs, the large reasoning models. And those may eventually supplant some of the reasoning of the physician. And I've always believed in the trust but verify theory is, you can trust the AI to a point as long as you understand how to use the tool. If you're using the tool, the hammer properly, you're holding it properly, you're having the right set, it will work very well for you. So with AI, you have to set your context, your parameters, ask it very specific questions. You have to treat AI like a toddler. You can't just say, go put this glass away. You have to tell your toddler, pick up the glass, walk it to the second counter, open that drawer and put it on the third shelf where there's a gap. The toddler will do it perfectly. AI is no different. With the reasoning models, AI can start to reason on its own. Now, eventually, will AI replace the physician? Probably. Look, we're probably getting to the point of Star Trek. We're probably getting to the point of Star Wars. We're going to have automated bots providing care. And actually, they're showing that in some cases, some of these robots can provide better surgical care than a human can. They don't get tired. They don't shake. They're steady. They go through the same protocols and procedures every time. The AI can drive them. There's an aquablation system. There's a aquablative system for prostate that uses AI modeling. And it can probably do a better job than a human can in resecting and ablating tissue on the prostate. The downfall is AI is not human. AI is not a person. AI cannot touch you. It can't read your facial expressions. It doesn't give empathy. It doesn't give sympathy. So AI is great for the technical aspects, but it's not good at the emotional aspect. And as long as we need the emotion in medicine, and we will always need the emotion in medicine, nurses and physicians and other providers in healthcare will always be invaluable.
And also, in my view, AI can increase the uncertainty also because it's too much data coming in, too much uncertainty coming in. That's where the doctors are really need to use their mind to really judgmental. The judgment belongs to the doctor. So you write a beautiful articles. I read all your articles. You write it about why it is so important to have a human. If I go to the doctor, I don't care how brilliant the doctor is, but if he's talking nice, as you said, that calm voice, and then he's a body expression and calm me down, it is a billion things much more powerful to me than big MRI machine telling me all these nuances. I think I don't think we can replace that humanity, as you mentioned on all your articles about that. How to look in the eye and then talk with the patient. Shake the patient. He took the hand of the patient. What the Jesus did. He hold the hand of the leper. So it is healing has to come from that part. He is not just a. I strongly believe, I follow your articles, and you brilliantly put what I did was, one of the things, we are Silicon Valley people, what we want to do is that take that kind of a framework and then mathematical, make it, you cannot, there is uncertainty comes still. We need to quantify that uncertainty, then doctor will become a major role. So that is where I play some mathematical thing I'm developing so far, human care capacity. So I'm developing. I will talk with you later about that. But that is a goal. There is uncertainty there. AI can add a data, but it doesn't add care. Very strange. If you buy, they're putting AI and everything, slap on everything. The care may go actually affect. It may go down. So that is, we need to measure that. So I'm developing some framework to measure that capacity. But anyway, you're doing a great job. That is about, you're bringing the human to the center. Then let me ask you, Dr. Block, you have a lot of experience in way beyond that. I can even ask questions. You are a board, you're representing in the hospital board. When you're in the board, then you're the suit versus scrubs, right? there's a CEOs up there on one side, hospital management, and then you're representing the doctors. What tension he pays, autonomy wise, what kind of attention he pays during this? How do you represent doctors without self-interest?
There's always going to be a degree of self-interest, and you have to try to separate yourself. You have to almost do an astral out-of-body experience. You have to put the needs of the institution in line with the needs of the physicians. And sometimes you always have a tainting of your own personal bent. That's why you can't always do it alone. You need a team. That's why that's why a king doesn't work. A monarchy doesn't work, because it's one person's opinion, and that opinion may not always be right.
Yeah.
You have to have other people to adjudicate, to evaluate, give an opinion, to soften or strengthen an opinion depending on where it's going. So when you're dealing with an issue, whether it's buying a certain piece of equipment, or evaluating an expansion, or opening or even closing an office for outreach, you have to think of your mission first, and then where do you need to go? And is what you're hoping to accomplish going to feed or compete against your mission? So if your mission is in healthcare, the patient is your mission. We always have to approach it as the patient first. So the system where I was, when I was president of the medical staff, and we were going through this, we were actually coming up with a system of new mission, vision, and values. And in these meetings, the one thing I kept saying is the patient has to come first. No matter what we do, number one, the patient must come first. Doesn't matter if it's a disaster, the patient comes first. It doesn't matter if we're hurting for money, the patient comes first. It doesn't matter if there's no insurance, the patient comes first. It doesn't matter if we don't have the equipment, the patient comes first. And then we will sort everything else out. The patient must come first.
How practical is that, Dr. Block? Let me ask you, patient comes first, that's given understanding, but what comes to the autonomy is not there. The doctors has to send a particular, if you need to send, you need to refer this patient to this particular MRI center or particular surgery center. That kind of autonomy is not there, clinical autonomy. How do you enforce that? There is a block there. How do you respond to that?
So you're right. There are times when the organization, the institution, the community doesn't have the resource available. But then it becomes the responsibility as the catchment area to help that patient find where they need to go. Mm-hmm. Okay, so you were saying, Mr. Jones, we don't have the MRI that you need, but it's in a sister community 40 miles away. We're going to help set up transport. We're going to help set up the appointment, and we're going to get you there and back. That's where it goes. And how does it work? I'm going to counter with a simple piece of data. And I actually mentioned some of this today when I wrote a LinkedIn post all about medical staff autonomy, but there was something linked in there.
I saw that, yeah.
Studies show that hospital systems that are physician-led and physician-driven actually run and operate at lower cost with higher quality metrics and outcomes than systems that don't. Because the physicians understand the needs of the patient, and they understand the intricacies of how these systems work. So we can mesh both worlds. We can identify what a patient needs within the capability of the resources of the system, and then we can say, yes, we can, no, we can't, or we can with a caveat. So let's figure out how we're going to do this. And then it's all buy-in. It's all buy-in from the other physicians. If you have a physician-led system, physicians tend to aggregate and follow. If it's a non-physician-led system, there's almost an impetus to create an obstructionist view, meaning why would a pack of lions follow a tiger? You're a cat, but you're not one of our cats.
But the law prohibits at this time. The physicians cannot own the hospitals, right? The law is not there yet.
It depends. It depends. It depends on the state. In some states they can. In some states they cannot. But it's many of the physician-owned institutions are grandfathered in, and there are several of them across state lines.
Yeah.
There was an article that came out, I believe, early last year it was somewhat of a throwaway journal looking at these institutions, and it looked at all these metrics. It was a great little article, and we need to overcome the regulatory environment. The problem we face is I feel like medicine, modern healthcare, is where the airline industry was in the 1970s. I don't know if you remember back in the 1970s, the airline industry, quality was going down, safety was going down, costs were going up. Everybody was disgruntled. Airlines were running over budget, never on time. Everybody was angry. And then the Reagan administration came in and they deregulated the industry. They decided to say, we're going to have basic safety guardrails in place, and we're going to let the industry, we're going to let you compete and figure out to do this yourself. Yeah. And what happened? On time went up, safety went up, quality went up, prices came down.
Yeah.
We're facing a situation where, so I belong to an organization called the American Association for Physician Leadership. The current CEO of that organization, Peter Angood, he's stepping down. He wrote a book called Every Physician is a Leader. And I read that book and I disagreed with him. And I told him that. One of the things he wrote in the book is that, medicine is still one of the most, least regulated industries that exists. I believe it's the exact opposite. Healthcare is one of the single most regulated industries in the United States at this time. It has every finger in the pot from every level, from community to county to state to federal government. Multiple agencies all want a piece of this pie.
Yes.
And it just gets worse because what happens is the standard regulatory theory is, we have a problem, let's institute another policy to try to fix it. So the regulatory stack keeps growing and quality just keeps going down. Yeah. It's time to deregulate medicine. It's time to start allowing competition across state lines, expanding physicians to operate across state lines. But people travel for their healthcare. People can do telemedicine from anywhere. People can, surgeons can move state to state, patients move state to state. Why can't we have insurance companies do the same? Why can't, we have it now where a surgeon can operate in one room and the robot is performing the surgery several states away. It's time for us to deregulate and allow the free movement of medicine for equality and to improve quality and improve cost.
You mentioned Plato, remember? That the philosophy, the problem with so many regulations and laws, the reason is we need to follow the philosophy of care. That is not a well-defined structure. There is no moral boundaries. There is no philosophy of care. Then you can the methodologies like algorithms and all this come, and then the third is the technology. You don't start with the technology first, and then that's where everybody coming in and their own throws laws and compiling the laws. If you have a clean structure of the philosophy, you don't need that much of a regulation. See, to be honest with you, I agree with you.
I agree.
Over-regulated in the process.
I think the problem we have is it's too complicated, and we can't do piecemeal fixes. So I had a conversation a few years ago with somebody over drinks, and they said, "How would I fix it?" My first response would be to dismantle the entire system.
Yeah, you have to dismantle the entire system.
You have to dismantle the entire system. It just doesn't work. It can't work. We can't piecemeal fix this. And it's going to be a significant growing pain. How would it work? I have no idea. I think we need smarter people than me to try to figure this out. But the current system doesn't work. I've already seen it where people, I hate to say this, people are already dying.
Dying, yeah. I can tell you from physics point of view, there is no system engineering, there is no principles, there is too many laws because whenever they see a patch and put a patch there, and then it is a patch system. It's nothing to do with the philosophy. It has no central philosophy. It is nothing is there. it is just whoever comes there and putting the patch there and keep going.
Yeah,
So,
it's because you have one person with one view. It's everybody operating under their own special interests. You have the lawyers on one side for torts. You have physicians trying to protect their economics. You have hospital systems who are losing money. And honestly, who gets lost in all this? The patient.
patient, of course.
The very reason that we exist is getting lost. We've totally lost sight of that. It's the patient. It's all about the patient, and nobody seems to understand that. But in order to make the economies work, you have to see more patients. You have to be more efficient. You have to do more. It doesn't work. And it always comes down to, well, who's going to pay for this? Well, the money has to come from somewhere. So what are we going to do? Just raise taxes and keep throwing money at this? It's like an old commercial. I can't remember what the commercial was. I think it was an IBM commercial. It was probably one of the best commercials I'd seen on something similar. But it was on technology. It was it was set in the medieval times, and it's these soldiers just catapulting rocks at a castle. And they said, well, we can't break through, so we're just going to throw more at it until we can finally break through. That's the attitude. We're just going to keep throwing more and more at it until we can break through, and it doesn't work.
It doesn't work. So, Jennifer, so you asked a question about it. What is your question about the rural and he also, Jennifer gone through some personal things, also, her sister and all those things. And she really experienced all the healthcare system they can offer from A to Z. Jennifer, what is your concerns? Tell us a little bit about that, and then how we can address, the problems are.
Yeah, no, I really do think it is the loss of the patient. I was just at the physician, and that meeting was maybe less than 3 minutes with the physician, and the physician then spent the next 25, 30 minutes on the computer. So, writing the notes. And, but that was just one experience. But looking at current concerns, I've seen a lot of notifications that there are being posted at places like UT Southwest here in Texas that have notifications physicians are retiring. Mm-hmm. And then, I read a little bit farther and it's like this urban rural healthcare gap. And so I was just starting to look into what does that actually mean? Is there just a lot of physicians aging out, or is there another reason, just like there was when nurses were overworked and overtired and decided to change their careers?
So this is a multi-level problem. And imagine a watch. The pieces work great when they're finely tuned, and then someone came along with a hammer and broke the watch. And what I'm going to say is somewhat unpopular in some circles. So if you look at the system, it's not that people are aging out necessarily, but people are deciding to retire earlier for several reasons. There's a woman, you should look at some of her work, Kim Downey. She runs a podcast on physician burnout, and it's huge right now. Physician burnout is a major stress disorder, and it continues to rise because of regulatory burden, technology, loss of the patient contact. So burnout is high. We're working harder to make less. And so the incentives are going away for us to stay in practice. It's the way I said it to a patient once was, some days medicine's not fun anymore. It's too regulatory. I'm forced to deal with the computer and not the person. We're taking care of the paper, not the people. So it's creating a barrier. Then the other side of it is you want to follow the money. The money is not in rural care. After the passage of the One Big Beautiful Bill, it got even worse. Rural facilities are very heavily reliant on Medicaid. Medicaid is being cut for budgetary reasons. Rural access to healthcare is going down. Part of that also is because of physician burnout. People don't want to go and be a solo practitioner in a rural area, not make a lot of money when they're going to be on call all the time. We're starting to see a big push in medicine towards better work-life balance. That's why you're seeing larger centers of excellence aggregate physicians. When you're recruiting physicians in these larger centers, they're all going to larger places where they're not on call every 1 or 2 nights. They're on call every 10th night. They're sharing the burden. And you can only see that in large institutions. But they're also looking at lifestyle. So when they're not on call, they can go out, they can go shopping, fine dining. They want the lifestyle. They want the best of all worlds. And they're commanding that, and they deserve it. We're also seeing a shift in the philosophy of medicine. And this is coming into where more women are going into medical school than were before. Over 50% of medical school applicants and entrants were women, whereas they were not before. I believe this is the first year, one of the first years where I think it was up to 55% of medical school applicants and entrants were female, not male. And what we've seen in the workforce studies is that women in medicine, this is the unpopular part, women in medicine tend towards the more lifestyle derivative medical fields. They want 9-to-5 jobs because they have to balance the family. They go anesthesia, they go ER medicine, dermatology. They're going into the fields that when they clock out, they go home. Nobody wants to work the long nights anymore. Nobody wants to be on call anymore. And so we're seeing there's a huge shift in the demographics, and it's a problem. We're seeing it in urology. Part of the issue is that patients are getting older, patients are getting sicker, and the residency programs are not training enough people. So the average urologist is getting overworked. So what happens? We get burned out. We leave the field, which leaves our compatriots who are still there doing even more work. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. It's a spiral downwards. It's a race to the bottom. That's what this is. And it's a huge issue. We need to train more physicians. No one wants to go into primary care anymore because there's no money in it. It's honestly, the average primary care doctor makes less than someone coming out with an IT degree in a lot of cases.
Yeah.
And that's not feasible. That's not feasible. I was on a LinkedIn post where there was a subspecialist surgeon whose annual salary in a private practice group, annual salary was $140,000 take home, okay, after taxes. And people are like, well, how's that possible? And that's one of the takes. The other take was, well, doctors don't need to make that much. One take was, well, how is that possible? And I've been in the system.
Yeah.
Surgical subspecialists working and he was a pediatric. This is the key. He was a pediatric surgical subspecialist in private practice. The overwhelming majority of insurance in the pediatric specialties is Medicaid products. And the majority of Medicaid doesn't pay enough to even cover the overhead for providing the care. So when you have a private practice provider, that's what happens. One of my former partners was a private practice pediatric urologist, and he couldn't survive. So he had to leave that group and go start doing adult urology as well. The reason that you're seeing these aggregated centers with employment models is because these are now what we call this in business a loss leader. So you provide the pediatric service to say you have that arm in your armamentarium, so it catches all the patients, and then you make it up. That is a loss to the institution, but you can pay the physician $500,000 to provide all the services, but you make it up on all the other ancillaries the institution can provide. That's why public service and larger aggregated institutions can do it, and you can't do that in private sector. These are all the nuances that people don't think about, and physicians aren't trained in this. This is the business side of the model. But when you're putting your feet in both worlds as a clinician and business, you can look at this and say, the patient comes first. We need to provide this model, but we need to get the physician. How are we going to do this in the most efficient, cost-effective way and get everybody what they need?
Dr. Block, there is another big impending problem for the United States now. People are getting older.
Yes.
There is a huge people of 65 and older is coming in. The tsunami is coming to the California is one of the biggest impact of the places. So how do you think we can cope with this kind of a huge demand for the healthcare services?
Well, I want to add a second ancillary to that. It's not only getting older, but getting bigger. So I'm going to put on my obesity medicine here.
Yeah.
Obesity is an epidemic in not just the United States, but the entire world.
Yeah.
We're getting to the point by 2030, 50% of the population will have been classified as obese at any time in their lives. Okay? And obesity is classified as a BMI over 30. But studies show that even a BMI over 25, and I'm not talking the muscular person, I'm talking the person with a certain percentage body fat, etc. Even overweight people have higher health problems. So obesity has been shown and linked to several comorbid conditions, which are linked to massive costs in the healthcare system, from cardiac disease, coronary artery disease, atherosclerotic disease, to osteoarthritis, kidney disease, liver disease, increased risk of cancers, diabetes. Obesity is increasing in this country. In my personal opinion, I blame it on the food industry. I really blame this on the food industry. Yes, it has a lot to do with our technology changing in screen time, but if people actually track the introduction of high fructose corn syrup into the food supply, that's when obesity started to explode. So
this problem is exported to India also. They're getting a big now. This obesity problem. We never thought India would be. India was one time we have food shortages. Now the obesity problem is a big problem in India.
It's everywhere in the world. It's
everywhere in the world.
Because we have high caloric foods, increased sedentary time because technology does our work. I feel like we're getting to the point. Did you ever see the cartoon Wall-E from Pixar?
Yeah.
Oh, you have to watch that movie. That is, I think, the end result of our society. Technology takes over, and people just float around in these lounge chairs, and it becomes an obesity epidemic. So as the population ages, people are getting, obesity is becoming more of a problem. Healthcare expenditure is exploding, and we do not have enough providers to take care of them. We do not have enough money to take care of them. And this is a concern. I don't know the answer.
What about the GLP-1 wonder drugs they're calling about? What you think solve some problem that you can contain some of the problems with that?
Yes and no. I think GLP-1s are a fix. They're a temporary fix. But I believe that if you look at how GLP-1s act, people who tend to lose weight, they lose weight rapidly and they can't compensate. And I have a feeling we're going to start to see cardiovascular issues down the road.
Yeah.
I honestly believe we're going to start to see it. So some of the work I used to do, I worked in pharma. I had worked with Pharmacia and Pfizer. They actually trained me corporately. That's where I got a lot of my marketing and sales background in pharmaceuticals before I went into diagnostics and device. And I had worked very closely with them in corporate. And I learned that the majority of what you learn about products doesn't come in the phase 1, 2, or even 3 trials, the phase 3 trials or the human trials, so that they get FDA approved. It's really in the phase 4 trial, the after marketing, post ad hoc marketing analysis, that where you find all these problems, because now you have tens of thousands of patients on these drugs that you're monitoring for years. You're going to find the problems that you never saw in these other studies that got you to get FDA approval. And I really believe that the GLP-1s may eventually have some issues. I believe they're a temporary fix. Why? Because almost every article that comes out in the obesity literature shows that without a significant lifestyle change, they are going to rebound. They have rebound. It's called rebound.
Yeah.
They will rebound. When the surgery stops working, they don't change their lifestyle. So they're eating the same thing. They're not exercising. All the medicine, all the surgery will not help them. My wife loves this comment, and I think it's brilliant. Food is medicine. And she's absolutely right.
Yeah.
Food is medicine.
Hindu philosophy says that in Hindu religion, that's one of the things is Vedas say that the Ayurveda, food as a medicine, that's one of the things that.
Well, my family member just got a prescription for naltrexone. Is that what it's
Narcan,
called?
yeah.
Yep.
Is it Narcan? So that's interesting that they're using Narcan. I've seen some literature on using naltrexone for weight loss. There are a lot of different things that can be used. It's identifying the right pathway. Not every particular product will work on every particular person, but we do know, and the literature shows what all the time, it will not work in the long run unless there's a significant lifestyle change.
Yeah, I believe food is the medicine. So I think your wife is 100% right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I will tell her you said that, and I agree. She is 100% right, and she'll love hearing that.
Well, I always think to myself, what's the key to me, right? What's the key to my balance?
Right.
What vitamins or what foods do I need to eat more or less of, and what do I need to do to make those things be good and healthy for me? Because it's not the same for everyone. And so
It's not.
yeah.
It's not. It's the same thing on the studies in obesity medicine looking at diets. That's why there's a huge push in what's called pharmacogenetics, looking at a person's gene structure to see how they will respond, not just to medication, but some people respond better to certain exercises. Some people respond better to certain diets. So there are studies that show that different people respond to different diets depending on certain parameters in their genetics. So not every diet always works for the same person.
Exactly. Just like your fingerprint's different for everyone. So
exactly.
Yeah.
So we talk about physical health. What about mental health? What is your opinion on the mental health side? What we are going through? Why there is so much stress on the technology stress, this stress, that economic stress. So, what is the society think in your direction? You're thinking as a very ecosystem wise.
So I believe that we have three bodies we need to nurture. We have our physical body, our mental body, and our spiritual body. I had actually done some work, taking classwork in spiritual counseling at the University of Redlands. So mental health is incredibly important. How you think controls a lot of what you do. Now we're going to veer from Western medicine slightly into Eastern medicine. So I have studied things in Eastern medicine, such as emotional freedom technique, acupuncture, acupressure. I've looked at it, and we're kind of looking at the same thing from two sides of the coin. In Western medicine, you fix the body, you change the energy. In Eastern medicine, you change the energy, you fix the body. Neither system is perfect.
Yeah.
It's the studies have shown that it's really an amalgam. It's called complementary medicine, and there are providers out there who work specifically in this area, identifying different aspects of medicine that will help you. So one of my favorite stories was there was a patient years ago. I heard this story, who was diagnosed with stage 4 terminal cancer, and he would not accept defeat. So he went home and he essentially took out every Three Stooges comedy video he could find and watched them over and over, laughing hysterically.
Yeah.
And he was cured. He was cured. The mind
Placebo
has
effect, right?
ability. That's the placebo effect. The mind can do amazing things if you let it.
Yeah.
It's almost the observer effect in quantum physics. So I'm a huge believer in that, is that creative visualization. You see what a path that you want to be on, how you deal with things. When I was a resident and I would stand outside the scrub sink of this one room, I would wash my hands and I'd look up, and above the scrub sink, there was a saying up there. It said, 10% of life is what happens to you. 90% is how you deal with it. That was the saying above the scrub sink. And when I was washing my hands, I didn't really understand it. It's kind of like those Zen haikus, those Zen puzzle, what's the sound of one hand clapping? You don't understand it if you think about it with your rational mind. You kind of have to let it just stew in you for a while and just get an emotional response. And I really believe that the mind has the ability to direct us. And we as humans, we're tactile creatures. In healthcare, that's why AI can't replace us. When a patient sits down across from me, they're looking at my face. They look at my concern. If I'm concerned, they get concerned. If I'm relaxed, they're relaxed. If I'm emphatic, they understand.
I love the article you mentioned. Yeah.
AI can't do that. It's a mirror technique.
The body language of a physician is so important that what you're saying. So I've been interacting with the doctors for a long time and lots of thousands of doctors. I see that I can see the difference. The people who worries you and then with with the calmness and the body language is of such a, it makes a huge difference in body language. That you were mentioning in your article today, very good article in my view. I think, yeah, I encourage all the audience to read about his articles. Very good. He writes a very interesting way. The AI cannot replace the physicians. That is a human factor has to be center of it. That is a really powerful argument. He puts it together. Dr. Block, another thing I wanted to ask you is, you're just a, I'm a quantum physicist. Only way I can explain quantum physics, I thought about it several times. How do you explain quantum physics? Only in India, when I was doing that, best way to understand quantum physics is through storytelling. Storytelling is the powerful weapon to tell this, quantum physics. So now you are a film producer. You produce a lot of, yeah, I don't know what you do. You're telling me what do you think in is healthcare? You can do the storytelling makes that difference in the healthcare industry. You think?
Storytelling is very powerful.
Yeah.
It's the way we developed our language. We sat around the fire when we were cavemen,
Yeah.
and we would tell stories to entertain, but it was a way of developing our culture and driving our population for betterment. Stories, they don't just entertain us, they can teach. So one of my since you like my LinkedIn posts, one of my favorite LinkedIn posts I did was, one of my favorite movies of all time was 1978 Superman with Christopher Reeve and Gene Hackman. And there's a scene in the movie, and I did this as one of my posts, and it shows Gene Hackman as the supervillain Lex Luthor. And the reason I say this is because stories can teach. Okay, I love to use movie quotes because they can teach.
Yeah.
And one of the quotes, Lex Luthor is Gene Hackman's character. What Lex Luthor says is, someone can read War and Peace and come away thinking it's just a love story. Someone else can read the ingredients on a chewing gum wrapper and unlock the secrets of the universe. It's all how you approach the story. What can you learn from it, and how deep do you dive into that story?
Yeah.
So if I were to tell a story about healthcare, I think I would choose a Greek tragedy.
Okay.
I believe a classic, Aristotelian Greek tragedy would be the ultimate story for modern healthcare. That you have multiple players, there's betrayal, there's behind the scenes, and there's always a death. Someone is going to die.
Yeah. Yeah, that is a beautiful story to be saddening, Dr. Block, I think we learned so much from you. I think you are one of the pioneers in the. I think you need to start this storytelling more and more to public and like people like our channels. I think you're being extraordinary. You're bringing one of the things that I like about your posts are, that's why I was interested in talking with you. You always brought the human in the center. One thing I did not like about this AI noise is AI can add information of layers, but it doesn't. Entropy of the entropy says that you can decrease the entropy in one area, but entropy is always increases somewhere. That where it is going to another part of the healthcare. We want to find out that is a very important. That you're beautifully explaining your stories. You're a great storyteller, and it writes a human instinct is wonderful with the way you write the articles. You cannot replace physicians if you read your articles. It is without a question. So thank you for joining. What is Jennifer? Anything you want to say? Final things?
No, I read that you were a major in the Air Force, so thank you for your service. And I grew up in Bellevue, Nebraska, and a lot of people get transferred there to Offutt Air Force Base. So I don't know if you ever ended up there, but
No, I was in the East Coast.
oh, East Coast. But anyway, thank you very much. It was very nice to meet you.
Can you give us the final words? What you're saying? What do you think of this healthcare system? What we do? What is your vision of this healthcare for all of us for the United States?
Are you talking philosophically?
Philosophically, we passed that all technology wise and the philosophical thing. What do you
I
think?
believe
You said that you
that-
wanted to burn the system. You want to start from scratch. If you were given you all the powers to start from scratch, what would you do? The first thing.
Yeah, Shakespeare said it. First, kill all the lawyers. So
I spent my entire career in the lawyer field, so that's funny.
I would. This is a huge conversation. There are so many working pieces that have to be integrated. I believe that we are ultimately going to get to a system that's going to be very similar to Star Trek. Technology is going to augment our ability. It's going to expand our capability, give us more equitable care, faster delivery, and it's going to be more efficacious, cost effective, but the human will still be at the center. We still have to drive it. And why? Because if we let unfettered AI run loose, I almost believe what Elon Musk believes, that AI will ultimately turn into Skynet, like in Terminator.
Yeah.
That we've seen the story so many times that AI without a set of guardrails will become too dangerous. We need to do it like Isaac Asimov, iRobot. There must be a set of protocols that, Asimov's 3 Rules of Robotics. I wish everybody would read those books.
Yes.
Because it tells you, back in the 60s, he thought of this, and we're facing that exact issue now with unfettered AI capability, without safeguards, without guardrails. But we need to put them in place because we must keep people at the center. And if we don't have safeguards, humanity will be lost.
Yeah, absolutely. Just hang around for a few minutes, Dr. Block, and I will be back. But the program is over. Thank you for all joining. Thank you for all. It's a good night for all of you. Bye. Thank you. Thank you. It's a truly an honor and privilege to have you, Dr. Block.
Oh, thank you very much.
It is so informative. It is a truly educational. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We are retelling their stories through our patented designs that can be worn on scrubs, t-shirts, printed on conference bags, and endless other promotional materials. Daily Wear for Medicine is the first ever of its kind to create curiosity in medicine through visual art. We at MedBricks are celebrating unsung heroes of the past who made enormous contributions to the field of medicine through our unique campaign called Daily Wear for Medicine. You can wear it, carry it, and give it.